Hey, Ed here from Precision Gun Reviews, and I'm back with another single stack 9mm review. This is a polymer framed striker fired single stack 9mm from Kahr Arms. This time it's the upmarket P9. This is sort of their standard model in polymer, but with the fancier upgrades, the better milling on the slide, the better roll marking on the slide, and the polygonal barrel, as well as some forged parts instead of MIM. But let's take a look at it as a whole. This one is the equivalent, the upmarket equivalent of the CW9. So you can always keep that in mind as we're going through this video, that they match pretty much spec for spec apart from those things that I just mentioned. So, taking a look at the pistol, which is unloaded, we have a 5.8-inch overall length, a 4.5-inch height, a 0.9-inch width, particularly the slide width, this increases it, and a 16.9-ounce weight. It is a very light firearm. It comes with 3 magazines. 2 7-round magazines and 1 extended 8-round magazine. These are stainless steel, and it does not have a magazine disconnect safety. Let's talk about these mags really quickly. These do fit a lot better than the compact M series cars. They feel like they fit in there as an upmarket sort of firearm should. This is still ugly, this extended base plate, but these standard base plates are just fine. And this gun tends to eject a little bit better than the M series does. I don't know what just happened there, but obviously when you're dropping it vertically, you get a little bit better drop on it. So that's the magazines. In photographs, this gun looks larger than it is, and that is because of its proportions, which I've stated in other videos, but again, this is not a big firearm. It's almost like a miniature as opposed to a standard subcompact. It's like a full size in miniature, which is unusual, and I really do like that I can have this sort of proportion and plenty of grip on the gun, but still have it be this big. And I have large hands, but I'm not a massive man, so you can see that that's a small firearm. The grip itself has very aggressive texturing on the rear and front straps, so you'll always have a very solid purchase here if you're applying pressure in those two places. The side is it has this texturing, but that's relatively smooth. But again, it doesn't matter because this gun always stays in place. If I squeeze this, you can see that shows up on my hand just like that. Let's take a look at the slide. We talked about these nice roll markings and this extra milling over the CW series. But more functionally, let's talk about the smooth lines of the slide itself. There isn't a whole lot going on. This bevel for holstering and these wide serrations for a good purchase on what is actually a somewhat difficult to rack slide in terms of the strength of the recoil spring in these Kahr firearms. The sights are excellent. These are the bar dot Kahr sights, bar dot here. This is dovetailed in, this is dovetailed in, so they are adjustable and replaceable, and they are both made out of steel. I really do like the Kahr sights, and I shoot well with them, and I think despite people's reservations when seeing something different like that, they are worth taking a look at and worth trying out because they are very functional. It does have a very large slide release, and that's because Kahr recommends using that as a slide release to drop the slide on your first round of the chamber. It works very well, but it is a little large. I don't think that matters in terms of carry. You have very narrow firearms to start with, and this doesn't really affect it. I'm sure having a little bit less there would be better. This also doubles as our takedown lever or takedown point on the gun, which we'll look at in a minute. But first, this trigger, which we know that I love. This is a steel, flat-faced, broad trigger that has a very long pull. So you're pulling all the way back until it breaks, and it breaks sort of suddenly. The reset is almost all the way out. I mean, it's going to be reset there, and it goes out to there if you let go. So not very much in terms of the difference between the standard trigger position and the reset position. But let's talk about this long pull. It's fairly light and smooth and even throughout. So as you're pulling, you just kind of get to the point at which this trigger breaks, and it feels like a nicely tuned revolver double action trigger. It's smooth, it's easy, it produces consistent results in the shooter. You know, you're never really anticipating this trigger as much as you do with something like a Glock trigger, where the hard wall requires an additional amount of force to get past, and your mind is aware of the point at which the gun should be firing. Here, you're pulling through and the gun fires, and that's the best way to not anticipate your shot and not sort of push forward against the gun and get more accurate shots. And I really do like shooting this gun. We can take a look a little bit at just a couple of targets. These are, again, my small 4-inch targets, so we've got about a 3-inch group there. It's more like a 4-inch group on that one, but very, very well centered around that target. And that's at around 10 yards, standing, just, you know, regular pace, nothing, no like precision pinpoint shooting, just target practice. Let's go ahead and take a look at the takedown procedure, which on this gun is a little bit more difficult than something like a Glock or, you know, whatever, the Beretta that we looked at recently. So we're going to be pulling back to line up these two marks and then pushing on that on the other side. So I'll pull that back and I'm pushing on it, and this one's a little hard, but there it comes. That comes out, and this, you pull that trigger and let it go, and it comes forward. So now looking inside this slide, we have a steel guide rod and a non-captive recoil spring. We have their polygonally rifled barrel, which is very long for the size of the gun. This is something we've talked about before with Kahr. They have so little going on inside their slide. It's literally like two pieces of mechanisms moving here, that there's a lot of space for a long barrel and chamber in front of that trigger mechanism. And again, this is a polygonally rifled barrel. It does have the offset feed ramp, so it's off to the side there, which lets the barrel sit a little bit lower, so some of that mechanism, or the minimal amount of mechanism in the gun, can sit beside it, and that gives the gun a little bit lower bore axis because of that. Let's move on to the frame itself. We have very long rails. They're mostly polymer though, which is not my favorite thing. I like to see some steel, but again, this is a 16.9 ounce gun. So there's just a little bit of metal in the back here. We do have this steel in the front, however, which the slide rides on. You can see right here, this sort of groove mates up with these steel rails. That's a different design, but it works really well, and I think that's a contributing factor to how little recoil this gun feels like it has. So we're going to try to put this one back together on camera, just to show what that process is like. Push this back in. This is me not trying to bump the tripod while still putting the gun together. I'm going to pull that back and slide this into that hole, and then get this back until that lines up and pop it through. That should have been done correctly, and it was. Okay, so that's the Kahr P9. The only other things we have to talk about are its reliability, which is excellent. I've shot all manner of ammo through this firearm without a hiccup. You know, steel case, aluminum case, brass cased, defensive loads, perfect. Shoots perfectly. Never a problem. Accuracy, you saw some targets, and I explained a little bit about how certain design elements of the gun work against the light weight of the gun to produce a firearm that has less muzzle flip and less recoil, less perceived recoil than one would expect from a firearm of this size and weight. Again, it's a single stack 9mm, very small, very light. However, it's easy to get those follow-up shots on target. So finally, our recommendation. I really like this gun. Everything about it really works well for me. I like that style of trigger, that long, smooth trigger. If that's not something you're into, this is probably not the gun for you. It's very different from your traditional polymer frame striker-fired pistols that have a firm wall and a crisp break with a short reset. This is very much a different philosophy there. The P9 comes with a MSRP of about $760. You can find it for about $575. The alternative to that, and part of my recommendation, is the CW9, which you can find online for about $325. So, you're saving about $250 for 2 fewer magazines, a regular rifled barrel with just lands and grooves, and maybe a MIM part here, and less fancy marks and milling on the slide. So whether that value proposition is enough for you to go ahead and get the P9, that's up to you. Oh, also, the P9 comes in a nice plastic case, whereas the CW series comes in a box. So, if you're looking at, $40, $80 for 2 extra magazines, a case which has whatever value it has for you, maybe that's $100. And then the difference in the other stuff, is that another $100 to you or not? I don't know, $150. So that's something that you can decide on your own. But if that is not a concern, if we're speaking in the realm of this firearm's pricing, then I would definitely recommend this firearm. It is excellent. It's a great size for concealed carry, and it functions very, very, very well. That's the Kahr P9 from Kahr Arms. I do recommend it. And this has been Ed from Precision Gun Reviews. Thanks for watching. Please do hit that like, that thumbs up button, and of course subscribe to the channel to get all of our stuff as it comes out. Until next time, as always, stay safe out there.
I just wanted to give a quick shout out and thanks to the gun store of Conway, South Carolina. They help us transfer in all of our firearms for review. And you should check out the gun store at scgunstore.com. They are a full-service firearms, guns, and gear shop with an indoor range. They stock a wide selection of handguns, shotguns, suppressors, NFA items, tactical rifles, hunting rifles, and gear. They are fully stocked with all calibers of ammunition. They have gun safes, holsters, magazines. They do gunsmithing on site if you happen to be in the Conway, South Carolina area. Additionally, they hold training courses for those in the area. And they also offer a fully automatic experience in their gun range with an AR-15 or a Thompson 45 Tommy gun. They've got knives, they've got used firearms, parts, accessories, really just about anything you could think of related to firearms, home, and personal defense. I recommend you take a trip over to scgunstore.com, and no matter where you are, go to shop.scgunstore.com, where you can shop their inventory online and have it delivered right to your local FFL. That's the gun store of Conway, South Carolina. Thanks for making all the reviews that you see here on PGR possible.